Deputy Public Prosecutor Christopher Ong took the court through emails as well as statements co-defendants Tan Yi Ping, Serena Wee and Chu Eng Han had given to the CAD in 2010. The evidence, none of which Kong Hee was party to, seemed to point towards Kong having knowledge of an album sale projection of 200,000 units. The DPP put to Kong that by entering into the bond transactions, knowing there was no reasonable prospects of returns, the defendants had entered into sham transactions. Kong disagreed on the basis of other spreadsheets and budget projections based on 1.5 million units of album sales had shown recoverability, and there was every intention for Extron to fulfill its liability to the church and all the individuals who had invested their monies. DPP Ong went to great lengths earlier this week to show that the defendants had intentionally given Fung Dao Ching, then managing partner of Baker Tilly, an incomplete picture of the relationship and transactions between CHC, Extron and AMAC. The prosecutor said the accused's motive was to use Fung's responses to test out things in order to avoid any issues with the incumbent engagement partner at end-of-year audit. Kong Hee explained that Fung knew CHC more than any other person in his company, and Kong and his team genuinely wanted his advice. He told the court, "We went to Brother Fung because he is a strong leader. People who knew him to be an authoritative man. We went to Brother Fung because Brother Fung was the boss." The prosecution rebutted this, charging that Fung would not have been able to detect any sham element in the transactions because the accused made sure not to disclose sufficient information to him. "How much clearer could it be?" Kong asked. "If I know that my house is dirty and that somebody that is scrutinizing my home, why will I invite him to come to my house and have the possibility of finding dirt? Something wrong. I will want to stay as far away from him as possible. Why would we want to take a risk if we have something to hide?" Today marks Kong Hee's 12th day on the stand. This is his 6th day of cross-examination by the prosecution. So far this week, the DPP addressed the issue of CHC's alleged control over Extron, the lack of full disclosure to the auditors, and the commercial justification of the purportedly sham bond investments. An email between John Lam and Chu Eng Han showed that Lam had raised concerns to Chu regarding the Extron bonds being non-investment grade bonds or high-risk bonds. Ong asked Kong if he knew at that time if the bonds were high-risk. Kong replied that he only knew this after investigations had begun, when the church's lawyer then, Jimmy Yim, told Kong that the Extron bonds could be considered as junk bonds. A junk bond is a bond that yields high profits but carries high risk. Kong admitted to the court that at that point in 2010, he believed junk bonds were a bad thing. The prosecutor asked Kong why he had said that the lawyers were consulted on the Extron bonds in 2007 if it was only after investigations in 2010 was carried out that Yim highlighted the junk bonds to him. Kong replied that it was Yim and his team of lawyers that drafted the bond subscription agreement. Kong said that these were top lawyers and he was sure that they would have done their due diligence. DPP Ong sought to show that Chu's investment company, AMAC, was a tool for the defendants to channel funds into the crossover project. Kong had announced at a July 2007 Extraordinary General Meeting that the church had sourced for other fund managers before deciding on AMAC because it could provide confidentiality and flexibility, and that Chu had spoken to its directors and board and was able to offer a low fee. However, DPP pointed out that AMAC had only one director, Chu. Kong explained that AMAC was a legitimate company, not a tool of the church. The idea of the bonds came from Chu via AMAC, not from the church. Also, there were contracts to show that AMAC had signed with CHC as its fund manager. Ong maintained that no other fund manager had been explored for the church. The DPP also showed the court Chu's statement to the Commercial Affairs Department, which showed him saying that the real function of the Extron bonds was to raise funds for the crossover project. He had also told the CAD the bonds were not actual investments. When asked by the prosecutor if Chu was trying to deceive the CAD, Kong told the court that he did not feel it was the case. To Extron, the bonds were meant to raise funds for the crossover project, he said. To City Harvest Church, the bonds were an actual investment that yielded higher returns than other vehicles. The court was then shown a November 2008 email in which Kong and Tan Yi Ping discussed the concerns for Chu after he resigned from the bank he was working for to set up AMAC, an investment company. Chew had fallen upon hard times, and in the email they discussed refunding Chew $100,000 of his donations to the church, paying him a $10,000 retainer for his services in helping with the church's investments, and even offering Chew's wife a job in the church for a salary of $5,000. Ong questioned Kong as to why he would owe Chew his livelihood. Kong told the court that Chew had worked hard as a volunteer for the church, helping the church to invest and looking for the church's new building, and all these suggestions were made out of concern for Chew as he was a church member. DPP Ong took Kong through emails and the testimonies of Extron directors Wayu Hanafi, Chung Ka-wing and Koh Seow Ni given in court during earlier tranches. Ong questioned Kong on how Extron directors, including Kong's former secretary, were approached to become directors. Kong explained that while he nominated individuals to be Extron directors, it was up to them to decide if they wanted to take up the role and the responsibility. He did not have visibility if there were others who had also made nominations. For more information, log on to citynews.sg. I'm Andrea Lim for City News, Singapore.